going to give you the MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Breakout Player, and Coach of the Division of the AFC East.
All right, MVP. I think this one's fairly consensus. Josh Allen. I mean, even despite some of the regressions and turnovers last year, he still is a top 5 quarterback league-wide.
You can't deny that.
Talent, he's might be number 1. I mean, he's very physically gifted, and in terms of value, he checks all the boxes, right? He accounts for like 40% of the running game.
Yeah.
And obviously, he is their entire pass game pretty much. So, in terms of value, it's not really all that close. Now, you could argue like Tua, because if he's upright, that's a 11-12 win team. If he's hurt, that's a 5-6 win team. So, but I do think the same thing could be said for Josh Allen, and that's kind of how you countered. You're like, but Josh Allen.
Yeah,
like the run game, all that. So.
Think about it. Like, what are the Bills without Josh Allen?
Not very good.
I mean, he accounts for almost all of their offensive production. He's usually their leading rusher. Obviously the leading passer. And I mean,
leader, right?
Yeah. He has all the qualities that you need. Tua is very valuable. This is a division where I think there are 2 teams that are very quarterback dependent, but I think the Bills are more dependent on Josh Allen.
See, now that's where I'd push back that the Dolphins are actually the opposite of quarterback dependent. It's a very quarterback friendly system, but it's significantly better with Tua in there. That's why I would give the nod for value to Josh Allen, because I do think Tua is helped out a lot by Mike McDaniel's genius system.
Yeah.
All right, Offensive Player of the Year, Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I mean, he said, I'm looking for 2,000 yards this year. I don't think 2,000's viable, because I do think they're going to have a very strong run game to kind of take the pressure off Tua and lessen his dropbacks, right? You play with fire too much, you're going to get burned.
Yeah.
Lessen his dropbacks so you lessen the amount of times he can get hit. And then also with Jalen Waddle, right, you have a dynamic guy across from you. He's going to take a couple 100 yards away from you just naturally, so I don't think 2,000's possible for Tyreek Hill, but 1,800 for sure. I think he's going to be a stud. He'll probably lead the league in yards. He'll be up there in touchdowns. Like, he will be a top 3 statistical wide receiver in football. So, 2,000, no. But Offensive Player of the Year for this division, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. The weapons there are undeniable. And Tyreek Hill is, come on, the best of the best. He's the fastest person in the NFL. Yep. That's going to give you a huge advantage, especially when your job is to outrun other individuals and you are the fastest.
On the planet, basically, yeah.
Yeah, so him and Offensive Player of the Year. I can't think of anybody else. Jalen Waddle's close. I mean, he's a very good receiver.
It's going to be a good duo, for sure. It's going to help that you can't double Tyreek as much.
I think at times Jalen Waddle plays like a 1, though, too, so that's going to really complement Tyreek's game.
I would agree. One of the reasons he won't get 2,000 is because of our Defensive Player of the Year, Sauce Gardner, right? So you have 2 matchups if you're Tyreek Hill against Sauce Gardner.
An absolute ball hawk.
He is insane. Locked down. There's an argument for him being the best corner in the league already after his rookie year. Going into year 2, I don't think that's going to change. I think he probably is the best corner in football.
Yep.
He might not have the interception numbers as like a Jalen Ramsey, Pat Surtain, whatever. But in terms of locking down your best receiver on a week in and week out basis, Sauce Gardner is that guy. It's weird because he's also on the Jets, but reminds me a ton of a prime Darrelle Revis, where it's just he's not flashy, but you just know going into the game you're like, well, our number 1's screwed. Like, you could have Calvin Johnson, you're just like, well, hopefully our number 2 came to play today. Every week in and week out for the Jets. So.
Yeah, I mean, in such a staple, too, in division with these really good quarterbacks, right? You have to have a guy that's going to be able to break up passes and get turnovers. I mean, if you can get turnovers against the Bills, it's really the only way to win. Because other than that, they're pretty much going to score on every drive.
They don't punt a lot.
No. So if you can get turnovers in this division, that's good. Sauce Gardner helps a lot. Defensive Player of the Year.
I would agree. Breakout Player of the Year, Josh Uche, the edge rusher for New England. Now, he had 11.5 sacks last year, so some may argue he's kind of already broken out. It was his 3rd year last year, but I do think he's going to break out even more. I think you're looking at a 14, 15 sack year for Josh. He really, really good bend around the edge. Reminds me actually a lot of who he's playing with is Matt Judon, right? Like a little bit bigger of a frame, so it doesn't quite bend as well as like a TJ Watt. Is not quite as fast as them. But the combination between the two is fairly elite.
Yeah.
So I think Josh Uche, 14, 15 sacks is certainly on the table. And I do think it, again, helps with Judon on the other side. You can mix and match those two So teams won't have a great answer. You're not going to be able to chip both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
If you do, you're not going to have as many out on the routes, which, Belichick is going to be able to counter that. So he's going to be a matchup nightmare for a lot of guys.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that is one of the biggest things that that New England can hope for right now is really solidifying that defense.
And the edge rush. Yeah.
I mean, there's not much you can do on offense now, I guess. I mean,
the receivers just aren't dynamic.
Right. So having him break out there defensively is going to be huge, pivotal for the season.
Coach of the year, we kind of touched on him a little bit, talking about Tyreek Hill, but Mike McDaniels. Mike McDaniels is a stud.
Yeah.
There's an argument in terms of just offensive minds. It's Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniels, right? Like, and I think you kind of saw it last year. Were they on Hard Knocks?
No.
Well, there were a lot of games where he was mic'd up, and you can hear him talking to Tua through the headset. Like, there's a different sensibility about the offensive guys, right? Like, Bill Belichick, on to Cincinnati. Like, oh, Bailey Zappi's got a chance to start. Like, Mike McDaniels with a very limited quarterback in Tua. Yes, accurate, distributes the ball fine, but arm strength, mobility, not quite there. So with a limited quarterback, Mike McDaniels is like, we're all in. When he's putting his arms around Tua, like, he gets the position, and he gets offense better than almost anybody in football. And I do think one of the things he's going to do this year is the run game to go along with Tua. The back and forth between play action, run game. They have like 3 or 4 deep in the backfield. Like, this offense has a chance to statistically be the best offense in football. Definitely top 3, I think.
Yeah. Not just the quality of the coaching, but I'd say personality that goes along with it. Being able to connect with your quarterback and your entire team. Those mic'd up clips of Mike McDaniel are so funny.
He's like Georgia's the best team in the SEC or something like that.
Yeah, he's just Tua's just warming up. He's walking by, just kind of talking trash in the headset, just as a joke. And he always keeps things light, keeps it fun. And I think that's big too, because you see Tua make a mistake, he comes off the field, and he knows exactly what he did. He takes the blame for it, or Mike McDaniel takes the blame for it and says, "Hey man, look, that was on me." Right. How many coaches are willing in the NFL to take a step back and admit that they're wrong? I would assume not too many.
I will say, kind of a sidebar here, but watching that quarterback series with Kirk Cousins and the dynamic between him and Kevin O'Connell, I thought was very similar to the two. Cool. Like, younger guy, kind of understands, more generationally similar, kind of understand each other a little bit better than, say, like an older guy and like a super young, like a Bill and Mac Jones, for example. Even like a Tomlin and Pickett, I'm sure they're fine, but it's not quite the level of a McDaniels, Tua, Kevin O'Connell, Kirk Cousins. That dynamic back and forth, it can really spark, a good relationship and a great offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Take us back down through.
All right, MVP, Josh Allen. Offense Player of the Year, Tyreek Hill. Defense Player of the Year, Sauce Gardner. Breakout Player of the Year, Josh Uche. And Coach of the Year, Mike McDaniels from Miami.
Fantastic. Guys, on the other